What's up, everybody? This is Marcus, your MTT coach of the Academy of Poker, and we're here with another short educational video for the day. Topic is how to choose between flatting and 3-betting. I will just give you a few tips on how to choose the right option here, depending on position, stack sizes, etc. As always, make sure to give us a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all our social media so you're not missing out on any action or any updates from our academy. But let's jump into the video. Number one, or tip number one, where it depends on if we flat or if we 3-bet is, of course, the position. As you see, there's, for example, an earlier position raise, which is usually a bit stronger because the range of the opponent should be tighter in that situations. So therefore, 3-betting only really makes sense if you either have a hand that can get value of the opponent's range. So for example, he opens UTG, which means he should usually just open like 15% of his range. So that would be ace 10 suited, ace jack offsuit, ace queen, ace king, nines, tens, etc., etc. And then you should have a hand. Of course, the easy ones would be aces or kings, where you know you will most like with aces 100% sure, but even with kings or queens, most likely will have a better hand for now than the opponent. So then you're gonna 3-bet because you can get value from your opponent, meaning he has a worse hand but is still calling you. So that would be option number one. Option number two is if you have a hand that, for example, blocks some of the strong hands from your opponent. In this case, for example, if you have ace 4, ace 5 suited, for example, you have that ace, and that means it's more unlikely that the opponent has aces, ace king, ace queen, or ace jack or something like that. So it's more unlikely. Of course, it can still happen that he has it, but as said, it is more unlikely, and therefore he might be either on stuff like king queen, queen jack, or pocket tens, pocket jacks. Of course, then he's with tens and jacks, he's even still ahead, but you have at least your 30%, and he might give you a better hand, so he's going to be a bit more cautious, and then you have a chance on later streets to still get him out of the hand, or you just hit your ace and you're going to be ahead. Other thing is then flatting hands. Other than that, flatting hands is probably or is the better play in the long run because you can perform better in that case. You see a flop, the pot isn't too big, and especially when you, for example, you are learning with our Academy of Poker, then you are gonna have an edge post flop, meaning you are able to outplay your opponents. And there's a lot of boards when the flop comes really small, like 8-5-3 or something like that. And often enough he's going to have overcards. Of course, he can have overpairs, in which case it will be harder, but this is just a small part of his opening range there. So therefore you can have ace king, ace queen and stuff like that. And in that cases, it will be hard for him to continue really, and you might be able to get him off a hand on the turn or on the river, depending on the board runs out, of course. And all in all, it's just a good thing to mix those flats and 3-bets. So sometimes when you have aces, also flat them, especially when there are stacks behind you or people behind you that act really aggressively or are really short, and they might just induce some action in that case. Or also to 3-bet some hands you would mostly flat, as it also like some weaker aces or some suited Broadway cards, just to, as said, have a little mix in your ranges and therefore don't be too easy to read. Second thing, stack sizes. I already said it when people are behind you that are a bit shorter or something like that. But all in all, like position decides a lot about the ranges of people, as I already said. But also, if you're deep stacked, people really like to play more hands. That's why a lot of times more amateur players or beginners like to play from the beginning because they can see a lot of flops, they can see a lot of cards and just see or use their cards a lot and play a lot of hands. And a lot of times, especially in freeze outs, regulars tend to go in later because they just don't want to. Yeah, they just don't want to interact with that and have weird situations where somebody just plays any two all the time and therefore it's really hard to have a read on him. So therefore, as said, when they're deep stack, they like to play more hands, and therefore 3-betting them will not work as often. If you do it in a light, if you do it as a 3-bet bluff, for example, it will not work as often because they just really like to call you anyway. So therefore, it's just easier to just flatten those situations and outplay them post flop because they have so big ranges. And when you hit something, you can either let them bet or you can get a lot of chips by betting yourself because you know they won't be able to fold that easily. On the other side, if you have premium hands, aces, kings, ace, king, for example, you just go for bigger 3-bets than usual. Like when you're deep stacked, instead of going 3 times the raise of your opponent when you're in position, make it 3.5, make it 4x, maybe even 5x when you're really deep stacked and you know that this player is always calling you pre-flop, or at least 9 out of 10 times. Um, and then you can build a bigger pot, and it will be easier for you to get more chips in with your big hand that the opponent has to catch up to first. So those are like 2 or 3 things that will help. And of course, last but not least, already mixed it in with the positions and the stack sizes. Play your opponents. So, of course, as we always preach here, use the software, Holder Manager, Poker Tracker, Hand to Note, because this shows you how your opponents act. So you see how often, how much they raise, how much they like to see a flop, so how their VPIP looks, how often they 3-bet, how often they fold to 3-bets. So this helps a lot because if you see a player that is folding a lot to 3-bets, 3-betting them is of course an easier option because you know that they fold so much. And therefore you can mix in more and more bluff 3-bets because you see they work more often versus this player. But of course it's the other way around. If somebody is really almost never folding to a 3-bet, you should just flat with your hands. You might like to 3-bet bluff and rather go for a flop where the pot isn't too big. But also you can then easier 3-bet your value hands, and in that case also go a bit bigger because, as you know, they don't like to really call you, don't like to fold that much. And yeah, this is already it for this short educational video for today. I hope you got something out of it. As said, just a few short tips to help you improve your play and also to outplay your opponent more and more. If you liked the video, give us a like, leave a subscription there, leave a comment if you have any questions or critics in any way to this video. Other than that, good luck at the tables as always, and have a good day. See ya.